Hi there, it's Monday. Very loud. It's Monday, January 16th. It's 7:02 Eastern Standard Time. I'm 2 minutes late, but I'm still here and so are you, so that's the good news. And tonight we are talking about the Rune Wunjo. And I forgot to tell you guys who I am. I'm Foxglove, and I have a silly headband today. Okay. So Wunjo. Wunjo is the rune that looks pretty much like the little P, like thorn backwards. There are a couple of different variations on how Wunjo looks. Sometimes it can be with the sharp lines or with the rounded lines, depending on what time period you're looking at it. And it doesn't always connect either. Sometimes you've got... is there any way that you could turn that down a little bit?
Here we go.
No. And now it's just going to come out of the speakers.
The speakers just turned off here.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
I'll fix this.
Okay.
So anyways, the meaning of Wunjo. Wunjo is one of those runes that people have a tendency to overthink. Or at least that's my opinion of the situation. And a number of authors also state this in their explanations as well. If you guys have anything to say about this, definitely chime in. If you go to the earliest translations of it, it means simply joy or bliss. And that's pretty much all it is. But for better or for worse, joy and bliss is something that's kind of hard for people to explain to each other. We have these words for it, but it's one of those things that if you've never really experienced it, you don't know. And sometimes when you have experienced it, you don't know. And so all of the explanations that you see are usually just trying to explain what this fleeting thing called joy is. Most of the authors that I read described it as a simple joy, a very childlike joy. Could also be joy in one's work, simply positive thinking to get you through a depression. That's actually one of its magical uses. If you're feeling depressed and kind of under the weather, you can inscribe it on your forehead and help bring up your spirits, make you think positive. Many people describe it as a balance of inner and outer life. And I'd like to ask you guys if you think that that might be because when you feel joyful, everything's balanced, or if it's the balance that causes the joy, kind of a chicken before the egg thing going on here. And some of the depictions of this joy are like children running around, this very familial thing, and the way that I thought of it myself is just that moment of you get it, and everything's perfect, and it's just golden. It could be one of those, if you guys have ever been on like a vacation with your families and you're just sitting there in the sun and everything is in place. You don't have to do anything because everything's done. You got all the planning out of the way before you went on vacation, and you're just sitting there on the beach and everything's perfect. You don't have to worry about it. You got the food in the cooler. You just ate, you're not hungry, you're not worried about any of your physical needs. You're just sitting there and enjoying it. Or like that perfect sunset when you're just looking at it and you're just like, everything is awesome right now. Those moments are what I think Wunjo is. And if any of you have ever felt those moments, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Most people have at least had one of those in their life. And if you have, you should totally tell me about it. If you think that if I've got it and you have another example to pull in here, because more examples the better. And so, back to this balance of inner and outer life, the balance is you've got all your survival stuff taken care of, you've got all your mental, emotional stuff taken care of, there's no baggage hanging around, you're just good. And then everything outside of you is just good. It's not winter, it's summer, you're having a great time, everything's all set. Or if it is winter, You're not worried about surviving it. You're inside, you're by the fire, you're just chilling with your cocoa and everything's good. And so with this comes this idea of bliss. Wunjo isn't necessarily the bliss of enlightenment. It's a little bit more earthy than that. It's just home bliss. It's just the simple life bliss. Not, I've got all the big ideas all set in motion, the universe is in my noggin and everything's good. It's just, everything here on Earth is all set, my life is good. Another translation of Wunjo or its root words would have been wish, or wish father. And in some translations, the word wish could easily be confused for Odin. You hear him called the wish father. You also hear the Valkyries being known as wish daughters. This idea of wishing being very important, and you also have to be careful what you wish for because you just will get it. Kind of that Pinocchio kind of idea that he wants to be a real boy and it has to go through all these things, and when he finally gets it, yeah, he's happy, and you went through all the work to get there. So it's also believing that all these things are going to be getting to you, which is part of that positive thinking element. And then you get into this idea of joy as a community and a family. Now, I've heard a couple of different theories that go that this is a joy in just you being part of, you just being in yourself, a very individual joy. But I've also heard this as a joy of the community and the family, that your willpower, your goals are in line with what the community wants, and all the community is going towards the same thing, and you're all going forward together, and you've accomplished it together as a group, as a community, as a family. And so definitely respond. Tell me if you think this is personal. Tell me if you think that it's communal. I definitely see it myself as more of a community of family thing. One particular author described the shape of Wunjo as being the clan banner. This is Esoteric Runes, I think. It's the blue book that we sell at witchschool. Eschaton, good times. And I always love that book because it has these very interesting takes on the runes. He takes it from a scientific standpoint as well as sometimes brings in these little things that nobody else really mentions. And this clan banner thing is one of them. I've never heard anybody describe it this way, but it makes total sense. If you think back to those periods of time whenever there was a war, they would have the flag bearer, and he would run in front of them, and they would have the little flag, and sometimes it would be the little triangle, sometimes it would be the square, but that flag would be a clan, not a country, but a group of people that had this familial one-group-mindedness, that they would be together, and they would all be going towards a goal together. Just like Wunjo, this community goal. And they were all underneath this one goal, which is their banner, which is the shape of Wunjo. Same author also mentioned that the scientific principle that would be associated with this is the harmonic principle of sound, which I don't know too much about because it has to do with physics, and that's not my forte. Anybody that knows anything about physics, please enlighten us. I would love it if you would do a response video to this and explain the harmonic principle of sound and how it would relate to Wunjo, because you love physics and runes. Be my best friend. Another meaning for this could easily be good news, just the whole group getting this really great news. Although I usually see that as kind of a Rado type deal, but if you see Rado and Wunjo together, good news! And then the last thing would be the magic part of Wunjo, would be that this is the rune of bind runes. You see Answer as the rune of runes. It's the rune that represents all the runes. And Wunjo would be the one of the bind runes, which is taking runes and putting them together and having them work together to help you, which goes along with what Wunjo's representing. Wunjo's also the last in the first 8, which means we've gotten 1/3 of the way through these runes. And so it has a sense of completion to it. This sense of, we've finished the first part of this, what Answen would term the Creation 8, also known as Freyr's 8, and we're starting to get into the next 8, which are Hoggle's 8. They're always named after the first rune in the 8. That's a trick that I learned. And if nobody wants to mention anything in the forums right now, we can just go on to the associations. Does anybody have anything to say? No?
Sure.
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 Well, Cricket's, it's lovely to have you tonight, especially seeing as we mentioned Pinocchio. Although I don't think Wunjo has anything to do with conscience. That's another rune. So we'll go on to association. The deities or Norse theological things associated with Wunjo, you have Odin, Freya, Freyr, not Freya, Freyr, Frigg, Freyr, and then you have this idea of Valhalla. Many Christians will associate Wunjo with heaven, but it does have more of that beer hall feel than it has the singing choirs of angels feel. Definitely more about the teamwork, drinking, and just having a good time, rowdy party, as opposed to this, celestial, winged, trumpety, pretty party. More beer, less tea. For its healing associations, it's associated with healing emotional problems and interpersonal conflicts. Like we talked about, this idea of drawing it on your forehead to help get rid of those negative thoughts, get rid of depression. It's a spiritual antidepressant. But it also has to do with breathing problems. And that comes from the idea that with the, and now I'm going to get into a little biology, the parasympathetic and the other system of your neurology that I can't remember the name for. Totally remind me of that if you have any idea what I'm talking about. There's two parts of your body. There's one that kind of takes everything in, and there's one that kind of reacts to it. And breathing is one of those things that you can both control. It's part of the involuntary and the voluntary part of your neurological system. You can do it. You can both let it just happen and control it. And so it's kind of the key to tuning in to the involuntary. And a lot of cultures believe that it's the key to healing, because by taking control of the things that your body just does on its own, you can tell it, well, you need to stop freaking out about this and you need to fix it. Calm down, fix it. Because our bodies have the monkey mind where we just want to do things on instinct. And that can be good, but it can also hinder us. And we have this ability to say, nope, I'm safe, I'm good, I'm just sick. If I just sit down and heal, everything will be fine. So breathing is kind of that key to tapping into our healing processes, this idea of the stuff we can't control and controlling it. Its polarity is male. At first I kind of didn't understand why it would be male. I didn't really necessarily see it as female, but I didn't necessarily see it as male either. It kind of seemed genderless at first. But the more you look at it, the more you see it kind of has this, robustness to it. I mean, I just described it as a beer hall earlier. Of course it's robust and dewy. So it's definitely male. The color associations, there are two of them that I saw as having anything to do with Wunjo. Definitely tell me if you disagree, if you have your own color options and why you think that. I've got light blue, which represents hope and faith, harmony, peace, tranquility, forgiveness. So it has that low-key version of Wunjo, that just chilling out with the family by the fire. And then there's also yellow, which stimulates intellect, represents charm, confidence, vision, enthusiasm. So it has this boom. there, like the victory part of it. So that's kind of like the chill part and the good, like the celebratory versus the calm aspects of Wunjo. Now this is something that I found unusual. There are 2 number associations with Wunjo, which is different because I've never really seen any argument with anybody on the numerology associations with any runes. One number I've seen put forward is 6 as harmony, beauty, love, marriage, family, and also 8 as achievement, abundance, strength, self-discipline, power. And so there's this back and forth, so let me know what you guys think. I really don't know which way to think. They both kind of apply. And then the astrological correspondence is Leo, which I totally think is all kinds of apt. Warm, generous, creative, bossy, authoritative, stubborn. You know, family. There are 3 tarot cards that are associated with this. There's Strength, which talks about the passions of the lower instincts, spirit ruling over matter, physical strength. There's also the Fool, which is the free spirit, one who naturally knows his will and is worry-free, kind of a dreamer. And then there's also the Universe, which has more of this completion feel to it. All of them kind of apply. So let me know what you guys think. And there's a comment section for a reason, guys. I want to read about what you want to say. I'll talk about it next week, I promise. Speaking of which, thanks for all of your help from last week. I noticed that somebody put up the money tree, which was Olive. So there you go, more facts. Don't forget to come back and read the comments so that you learn something, not just me. Then we've got the planetary rulers for Wunjo, which are Venus and Saturn. And the runic workbook goes into this humongous discussion as to why it's Venus and Saturn. Because he figured that anybody who looked at it would be just like, Saturn? What? And not get why Saturn was there. But the explanation from that book was that Venus and Saturn were considered secret lovers because Saturn has this slow rotation around the suns. And it was the slowest planet that the Greeks could have viewed from their early telescopes. So it had this same feeling as the planet, the Hephaestus. So, and as you know from your Greek mythology, Hephaestus and Aphrodite kind of had a thing. By a thing, I mean marriage. And so Saturn does have this association with Hephaestus. And so they have that whole thing going for them, so it has to do with this idea of this marriage between the two of them. Anybody who understands astrology better than me can totally explain this to everybody. Another one that would be really great to see a response video. There are 2 gems associated with Wunjo. We've got the diamond, which is the hardest mineral found on Earth, as well as the most valuable gemstone because of De Beers. They're come in all kinds of fun colors. I really didn't find any information about the magical properties of diamond because diamonds are apparently too cool to be magical. Or at least that's what the internet thinks. So definitely share some insight on the magical properties of diamond and whether or not it fits in with Wunjo. Then there's also Topaz, which is supposed to banish bad dreams, draws love to its wearer, protection against envy, disease, negative magic, and sudden or untimely death. And encourages self-realization and confidence. So I guess Topaz is more of a guard against the negative aspects of Wunjo. In Paxton, I believe it was, one of the books, the Guide to the Runes, which everybody should have because that's our main source. In that she talks about how the Norse actually believed that you could become physically ill from someone loving you without that love being returned. Which is interesting. So Topaz looks like it would guard against that kind of stuff. And then we've got the plant associations. We've got the tree, which is ash. I didn't look it up before the show, so I'm going to have to look it up now. Ash. Oh, is a water tree, which is interesting. It represents Yggdrasil, or the world tree. So it has this idea of the universe, which goes back to our tarot association. So there's a little bit more of a reason for that tarot card. Protects against drowning while at sea. Has nothing to do with Wunjo. Very important for the Vikings, I'm sure, but doesn't really have to do with joy. Gets rid of snake bites. Burn ash wood at Yule and you'll receive prosperity. And poppets can be carved from the roots of the ash. So it looks like it has a lot of really great things to it. And I guess it has more to do with this idea of this completion part of Wunjo, more than the joyousness of it. And then we have a couple of plants. We have... And if you guys know something that I don't, totally share it. Especially in the chat room. We've got flax, which is used for spinning and cultivating linen, which has a lot to do with the ritual that we just did last week. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Prevents evil from entering the home. So I guess it has a lot to do with protecting the home, which to a certain extent has to do with Wunjo. It's more joy in the home, but you know, protecting it creates joy and kind of a peace of mind to it. And so I suppose flax would bring in Wunjo in that kind of a sense. And then the other flower that, or plant that has to do with Wunjo is Larkspur. And I just like that one because it has a really fun name. It keeps away ghosts and frightens off scorpions and other venomous creatures. So again, we have getting rid of venomous creatures. A lot of plants get rid of venomous creatures. It's very surprising. And it has to do with health and protection. So again, it has this idea of good health, good family, good community, just all of your physical needs being taken care of. You got Wunjo, you got joy, you got bliss. And that's it for associate. Did I talk about, I think I might have skipped the elements. Did I skip the elements? If I skip the elemental associations, water and earth are the associations. Obviously water for the emotions and earth for this like down-to-earth, earthly bliss, not spiritual, reaching enlightenment bliss. And that's pretty much it. Feel free to add any associations in the comments or do a response video. We'd love to see it. Anybody have anything to say?
Actually, they're talking in the chat room about the properties of diamond.
Oh, diamond, yes!
And some of the things that are being remarked upon from Netster, diamond purifies. It also amplifies thoughts and feelings, either positive or negative, and is associated with fire. And in a six-sided shape, it is at its luckiest and brings balance and harmony.
Balance and harmony, that's definitely Wunjo.
In a triangular shape, it will bring disharmony and friction.
No triangular diamonds.
And Scorpio 62 says that it strengthens energy centers
Okay.
and is associated with motherhood.
Again, with this idea of Wunjo and family. Good job, guys. I'm glad that we have this chat.
And also that it is associated with the Sun and Venus.
Sun and Venus, okay. Wunjo has a very sunny feel to me. I don't know about you guys, but it has a very sunny feel to me.
And Netster remarks upon their requiring frequent cleaning.
They require frequent cleaning? I didn't know that they required
Cleansing.
Cleansing.
Yeah, energetic cleaning.
Well, I suppose if they do a lot of clearing out, then they would need that, huh?
They're also very good for perfecting and refining the personality.
All right. Well, that again makes sense with Wunjo. Some people believing that it has to do with this kind of getting your stuff together and kind of coming to a place where everything's good. So I suppose diamond would represent that everything's good. And if it's not, then it's gonna get you there. So thanks everybody in the chat. I really appreciate it. Scorpio, Nestor, everybody else that didn't get a name but totally helped out. And if you guys don't have anything else you want to talk about, then I think that's it. Are we good?
Oh, they say thank you and they learned a lot.
Okay. All right. So, thank you guys for all your help tonight, and everybody who comments and reposts this or posts a response. Next week we have Hoggle, which is the very first Hagalaz, which is the very first rune of Hoggle's 8, and so we'll be starting a new 8, which is very exciting. We're going to go into the second third of runes, and I'll see you then. See you next week.
1 second.